All right, guys, we're live.
Okay, good evening, Somers, and welcome to our town board work session and regular meeting combined. We were knocked out of power last week and unable to have our regularly scheduled meeting then. So if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay, so this has been a very tough couple of days last week. 90% of the town knocked out of power. Cable service still not totally restored in the town. We have about a dozen people still out. They promised that tomorrow evening, all cable and internet will be restored. We'll get into that a little bit more in the meeting, but let me give you, let's go back to our pandemic that we're in the middle of.
Wait,
COVID.
Rick.
Yes.
Roll call.
Oh, okay. Patty, roll call.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Here.
Councilman Richard G. Clinchy.
Present.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Here.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Here.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Present. Yes, it's been quite a while since we've had a meeting, so I might as well follow the agenda. Okay. We have no public hearings this evening. I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So is there anyone, Paul, on for public comment? Or Patty?
I currently have nothing.
Okay. Okay, so as we've done in the past, we'll leave public comment open because people do, they try to get in, they don't get in right away. So we'll proceed, but we'll leave public comment open. Okay, department reports, Patty?
I have reports from the town clerk, building inspector, zoning board of appeals, plumbing, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Engineering, Tax Receiver, and Director of Finance.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll proceed with the COVID update. So the state had, since their last report, an additional 476 positive COVID cases in the state of New York. That brings the total to 421,336. That's statewide. Westchester County, we had 28 positive cases within the last week, which brings the county total to 36,233 cases. Somers itself, since the outbreak of the coronavirus, we've had 407 positive cases in our town. I'm happy to report we are down to 3 active cases. One of those just came on today. So we're, as you can see, the virus is still out there. And it's only because of the diligence of the residents of Somers, town employees, and officials, all doing what we're supposed to be doing with masks and social distancing, have we been able to bend and flatten the curve. So it's good. What I'm looking for is 0 cases. Every time that report comes out, we were down to 2 active in the community yesterday. We had 1 additional one today, which put it to 3. So Somers, we're doing what we have to do. Is let's stay Somers strong. Okay, tonight we have joining us Dr. Blanche from the Somers School District. He's here to give us an update on the school. So Dr. Blanche, if you're up and able,
Hi, Ray.
I'm not sure if I'm very able, but I'll give it a go. So,
Sure you are.
well, thanks everybody for the opportunity to come in and to check in with the group, see what questions that you may have from your different constituents and things. But before I start, I did want to say certainly thank you to the kind of highway department in particular. Boy, they were out there like anything. I was even this morning. I came, kind of early this morning, and full truck of pulling down and getting the branches off the side of the road. And I know they've been having an extremely exhaustive week, but it has not gone unnoticed. Again, myself living in the town here, so I have to be honest with you, I didn't miss losing internet for a little while. That made my inbox lighter. So I do have to tell you the truth on that one. I had nothing to do with it, but I didn't mind. But your team did extremely well, and they were out there and just getting after it. So I want to say thank you as a resident, that I know that they were hitting it 24/7. That's for sure. So thanks.
Here, here.
So just, some high level updates, and then I'll just, wherever the board may have, group may have questions, I'll go ahead and start from there. So basically our target is still to bring our students back into school. There's a little bit of a kind of a blend of how that'll happen. So we are looking at our schools starting at the kindergarten grades through 6th grade. Those classrooms we will basically separate physically in half. So we have approximately, let's say, a class of 26, 13 in one room and 13 in another. The space we've had to do is to commandeer, though, things like our libraries, our cafeterias, our gymnasiums, our art rooms, our music rooms, and turn those all over into classroom instructional space. And so when we look at that, we also, again, frankly, this is just luck. When I landed here about 10 years ago, we had about 800 kids over at Primrose. Well, now we're still a good sized school. We're still down about 525, but we're able to go back and use that space that we've been able to repurpose for other reasons. But now we have to bring it back into the fold and do that work. So that's a kind of a K-5 experience, half kids in one section, half in the other. If let's say that I'm teaching in one section there, we have a teacher assistant who will be with the children on the other piece, and then we'll kind of go back and forth throughout the instructional day. This is dictating the need to go ahead and hire a number of teaching assistants to support that K through 5. I would say one of the key pieces this year we've seen is that from an educational lens as well as a social emotional lens is to get our youngest children, most vulnerable children back first. And to be frank, also as best as we can to support the community so they can get back to do what they need to do to support their own families. So the littlest ones, we'll be having those come back on the basis K through 6. When we look at 7 through 12, that will be more like an A day and a B day. So half the class will be in physically and the other half of the class will be at home. On those days, the students at home, though, just like we're doing right now, there's the handful of us here doing this at home. I could have a class of 8 or 10 students over here. We would engage at the same time, the same lesson, the same introduction to the new concept would be happening in those grades 7 through 12. Then the next day they reverse that through. So that's how our students at home will be accessing live instruction on a daily basis from those classrooms. And so depending upon content, depending upon teacher, you would more than likely see at least 25 to 30 minutes at each one of those times. Much like this, if we said, oh, there's the introduction lesson. All right, guys, I'll go ahead and I'll see you back at 8 o'clock for the 10-minute closure. And you kind of go do your thing and you come back and we check in and we kind of close it out. So that's our perspective from the instructional side of things. So any thoughts or questions on just kind of how that instructional makeup may work?
So Ray, I have with your Primrose students, especially when they come in, they're going to be, like you said, in different classrooms, distance from each other. Will they be required to wear face masks while they're in class?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really want to have students wear a mask as much as possible. And so when students come in the hallways masked, in the classrooms masked, there'll be 6 foot separation, but wear masks as well. And we need to work with our faculty and the children to go hopefully outside and take predetermined mask breaks. So again, almost every single classroom at Primrose has access quickly in their own classroom proper to an outside area. So great, let's go outside, spread it out even more, take those mask breaks and things. So we're going to need parental support. So when it does rain a little bit or it gets a little bit cold, make sure the kiddos are coming with, the raincoats, and they're coming with their winter coats. So we can get outside and we can give the students that opportunity for movement breaks, as well as just what we'll call mask breaks and things. So,
Okay, so to be clear, they will be wearing masks while they're being instructed.
yeah, and that's a part where, like, even when kids are going to have lunch now in their instructional spaces, they won't go to a common cafeteria. So during lunch, they'll obviously take those masks off and be able to go ahead and
Okay, but they'll be socially distant in the classroom.
socially distance the whole way. So we're doing that part. Yeah.
Will there be any partitions or anything of that nature?
So in situations where, kind of again, looking at the Department of Health guidelines, where we're not able to maintain a 6 feet piece for any extended period of time, we'll be looking at if there's some partitions. For example, if I'm a teacher of speech or OT or something like that, I may be a little bit closer proximity. I'll have my mask, and we'll be looking at getting some shields and stuff like that. Actually, we've done this for our extended school year program in the summer already. So they've been kind of testing that out with some of that work. So yeah, we would do those in certain situations where deemed necessary.
So when the kids have to essentially have a restroom break, how's that all handled? And
So
I
it
guess
depends upon which school. So, at Primrose, most of those have restrooms inside of those classroom areas. And then in high school, those are obviously different ones. So those would be cleaned on more of a multiple times throughout the day in that regard. And so that would be just have to be coordinated as well.
Ray, when the kids at Primrose, let's say some will be in the gym, that will be their permanent classroom for some of them?
Yes, it will.
So obviously that has been reconfigured with, as Anthony was saying, petitions, or as much as you could make it into a regular type classroom, I guess?
Yes. Yeah. So same with the library. The library will be reconfigured to go ahead and take student desks in there. The librarians had met a little bit over the summer already to talk about how do we kind of order our books online, because the kids will all have their own devices. It will not be the same. This is not the same as,
No.
library feeling the book of the hands and looking at the desk. Just not. So they'll have to use their computers and kind of place in their order that they would like out of library. Those books will come to them in their classrooms, and they'll be able to get their books in that regard.
I was going to ask that. I have a particular interest in libraries, as you know. But at the high school, you're on the AB, not AABB type schedule, right?
Correct. And what we're looking at doing is we looked at our calendar, and we were looking at, like, initially either Monday or Friday back and forth between the groups. So we're looking at Mondays. So maybe 1 week you would go on your typical rotation of a Tuesday, Thursday. I may go Wednesday, Friday. Then we'll alternate back and forth on opposite Mondays.
Okay. Some schools are going with Wednesday as okay.
Can a family
some
opt
schools
out?
I've seen have looked at where they're looking at Wednesday actually being a full e-learning day. I've seen that model a few times.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at those being basically full days. We do have to, though, truncate those probably about 30 minutes each day, just to frankly manage the slower egress out of the building for when kids get on the buses, as well as we will be having more families pick up children. So the vehicular traffic will increase. So we need to open that window up.
Will the buses be staggered in the morning or afternoon, or it's going to stay on the same schedule pretty much?
So the buses will basically, once we get those buses on, we'll be trying to bring those students in a right away when they're on buses. Historically, what we do is maybe with each one of us, our buses would maybe land within a 12-minute period or something. We would hold the kids until we all went in. No longer. My bus gets there, I'm ready, I'm safely disported, and I go in, then I leave, and then the next bus comes. So it'll be more like that, trying to minimize any congestion as much as possible.
Can families opt out, Ray?
Yeah, so we actually had explored that conversation with the community a little bit about if it shows. We sent out a survey. I think it's probably been a little bit over 2 weeks ago now, initial interest. And with that survey, we did actually get approximately 1 out of 5 parents that they would prefer to have a choice to stay at home through e-learning. So again, about 20% of our families are looking at that. And then so what we did is we went out and sent out a follow-up piece. We do believe that the governor in his a kind of conversation, directors talking about families making the choice to bring to school. Our job to educate. Parents' choice looks like will be available now, that we have opened that up for families to choose if they would like to do e-learning right off.
So that brings some additional challenges for the K through 5, right?
It's somewhat. So what we're looking at right now is, so if I'm a second grade teacher, we will probably have a teacher. Second grade, we've got like 8 sections, right? We have what appears to be at least one full section that will e-learning right off the bat. Then we would identify a teacher and say, look, Ray, you are the e-learning teacher, and you will have those kids right off the bat in an e-learning situation. And then, if for whatever reason that you have a student that we've asked folks to commit for the elementary for the first trimester. If after the trimester say, oh, look, things are okay, and I feel a bit better coming in, they would not be able to stay with that same teacher. They would have to go into one of the other sections. And so that's how we're addressing it at that level K-5. Now, secondary, a little different, is kind of where we were talking a little before about the AABB. Basically, instead of being home one day in school one day, you're home both days. So that model is already set up. So you're just checking in every single day in your classroom period for live instruction in that regard. So that's how that's modeled. Again, teachers are generalists at the elementary level, so they teach all content areas, where math, science, social studies, English, they all have their separate areas. So the ability to have one teacher release and grab 30 kids at the secondary to teach all content is just not there.
How do you handle, testing coming in and out of the classroom, just for certification that you're healthy coming in and out?
Yeah, so actually through the guidance from the Department of Health in the state, we have been directed that families need to do temperature checks and checks as far as any symptoms of cough or and such things like that, or any exposure to somebody within the last 14 days that you are aware of for COVID and such things. So every family will have basically on their phone a little app, and they'll check in and say, look, I checked Ray's temperature today, clear, haven't had 14 days, clear, and all that comes, into the system, and we're able to go ahead and track that as best as we can. To help with some of that, actually, we've had to bring on some more staffing in regards to each one of our our nurses' offices in each school. We'll have an additional health aid support for a portion of the day to help get after that and to track that. And let's say that I came in and I totally spaced it, I snuck out of the house and I didn't tell mom or dad, not that would happen, but let's say I got it, I jumped on the bus, and they said, hey, I noticed you did not kind of get your thing. And so fortunately we have nurses in school, and they can go ahead and help with that screening and say, look, oh, looks like you're fine, but we need to call home and say, really, we need you to make that screening determination at home before the kids come to school.
What's going to happen with the athletic curriculum?
So as far as the athletic program, the interscholastic sports right now, we're on hold for any of that activity till I think it's September 22nd. I know, Tom, you've been kind enough to support the athletics a lot. I think it's right around September 20th.
Yep.
And so their plan B would be, if we can't by then, to come in January, and they've got a truncated 3 seasons that would kind of foul with each other and overlap a little bit. So with the athletic program, that would be the piece that we're looking at or hearing right now. So the governor has not released that to take place as we would start school, as far as I am aware. There's been no determination to say you can start interscholastic athletics.
Great.
Ray, we figure we're going to be down $1 million in revenue this year. What's been the impact of this? I suppose primarily from state aid and the sales tax aid. What do you figure how it's going to affect the schools? Your spending on some things is going to be way up, and your revenues are down.
Yeah, so from the financial perspective, in a few areas, right now we have made adjustments walking into the budget of approximately $1 million in reductions walking in. So basically, a portion of that would be with our, for example, our teachers union, our support staff union. Those contracts, folks who could move on the salary schedule would take place and are taking place. But those folks who are at the top of that salary schedule, there will be no increases in compensation for those folks next year. So that helps a little bit on the expenditure side. We, again, are about $1 million in anticipated reductions. And again, you're right on target. That would be from the state and the revenue stream coming from the sales tax locally. as we all know, that those revenues were anticipated to increase this year because the 1% sales tax increase. We had never brought those on board as anticipated this year. So basically our projections were here, but we're back to where we were relatively before the 1%. So those would be reduced out of there. And then as far as the expenditure side, as I mentioned before, one of our larger expenses now increasing will be in providing teaching assistant support for the elementary K-6 classrooms for the teaching assistant. That would roughly get you around $1.3 to $1.5 million in increased expenditures. And then we're already well into $150,000 of just COVID-related expenses for things such as hand sanitizers, signage, rug mats, and all those kinds of things, and get a mask on board, and or looking at some of the face shields and things, and some of the devices. So that's just going to continue to grow. So I would anticipate that in every given year we try to stay about 98 to a little close as 99% to our actual budget to actual. So we usually run positive a little bit at the end of the year, $1.5 million, $2 million. I would not foresee that this year. We may need to tap into some of our reserves to make everything balance out. We do have those reserves, thankful to previous boards for decades, frankly, who've made sure that's been there. I would consider this time, if it's not an emergency, I don't know what this is. And so, we don't want to go through all those reserves. We're not talking about undesignated reserves that we'd be tapping. That's our 4%, or reserves into some of our, obligations for faculty and staff and such like that. So we would be looking at, some reserves we actually built over the last few years for paying off like our retirement systems and such like that. So a year, we'll have a better idea over the year, but we're seeing the state down about 17%. Was the last number I saw from their revenue stream from the state as far as their coffers.
Don't let Crowley leave you, right?
So to let you know on that one, and we've had that public conversation that actually Ken will be seeing us through December, and so we are actually at the midst right now in the search process for an assistant superintendent of business.
So Dr. Blanche, just a quick another quick question for you. First of all, you and your guys have done a great job, so I thank you for that as a parent and a resident. And under these circumstances, you guys have really come up with a game plan that looks as best as it's going to be. And nobody can predict the future, but what happens if the State Board of Ed has reason to change our game plan? If there's an outbreak here or an outbreak there, A, do they have the authority to do that? I think they do. And B, do we have a game plan should that happen? Or we just come together and again, work through the best possible solution?
Yeah, so similar to almost what transpired in the spring, there's some different levels there. So our initial closure of school was a local decision, basically working with myself and the Department of Health, and we had some initial COVID pieces. So that time closed. That was right on the front side. And so in that regard, that was a local decision. That will still go forward as we work with the Westchester Department of Health and saying, okay, look, I have a faculty member or staff member or a student that has been identified as COVID-19. More than likely, we will be informed of that from the Department of Health. And then we will say, okay, we now need to start the contact tracing, working with the Department of Health and determining how large or how small that is. That a smaller hotspot? Is that an isolated incident? So the initial recommendation would more than likely be a 24-hour closure, perhaps up to a 3-day closure, allowing for time for that determination to be made in consultation with the Department of Health. So we would have that determination locally. Or as the governor has already identified, if you get to a 5% positive rate out of the testing in your area, you are shut down. So that kind of number has already been established that we would not be able to go beyond that. I think we all know that we're a little bit below 1% as a state now. So that number that's already been established, but localized if you get, and then is that a school? Is that a grade? Is that a wing? That's the conversation where we need to work with the Department of Health and say, look, we believe we have localized this and determined the contact tracing. So you need to shut that part down and you can leave the rest open, or no, this is a bigger piece. Whatever that comes, that's where the flexibility that we try to design in the different modalities we have right now. So as I mentioned before, I believe will be anywhere, depending upon grade level in school, between 15 to 20% of our parents are going to already start with their children in e-learning. That would be the same solution if we are automatically need to shut down. So we're going to already have 1 out of 5 kids already in that experience. The other kids at the secondary level would be halfway in there because they're half in, half out. So half of their time will be in the e-learning experience. It'll be the K-5 children who would be with us fully. That would be a change for them with the e-learning experience at home. At that point in time, hopefully, again, we spent about $400,000 last spring out of last year's budget. Kind of back to what we were talking before, there were some expenditures we did not have in the spring. So we used those dollars to procure, we're looking at iPads with keypad devices for all kids K-5. So we can get them hopefully up to speed, train up the new devices, understand how to navigate those devices. We had to look at the apps and the reading and all those stuff are available. So if we need to, they would have those devices set, ready, and armed to go ahead and look at a fully distance learning. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Ray, I'm just going to chime in and thank you. I obviously was at a bunch of the meetings. It was a yeoman's job. I mean, there were 150 different people from the community on these committees, as well as administration, teachers, and everybody who brought something different to the table. It was a great experience. I'm sorry I missed the meeting today, but it was a great experience. And everybody who was involved is really thinking about the safety of the children and the teachers, much like we want to, when we're doing what we're doing, the employees of the town as well as the citizens of the town. So you did a fantastic job under a no-win situation. You can't win.
Sounds like you guys a lot, right?
We've seen that in the town as well. There's no win. Everybody, you're never going to make everybody happy. So with the parameters you had and what you were dealing with, you and your team did a fantastic job. I was proud to be part of it, and thank you for the opportunity.
No, thanks very much, Tom, and for your time and commitment to that work. And that's where I do hope and believe that with our ability to offer some choice here, hopefully that allows again. And frankly, it does help if parents don't want to be forced to bring their kids. If those children are at home, then it helps our number of kids in the classroom physically with us. So that just makes the social distancing even a little bit easier in some of our spaces. So those are things that help. That's, let's say at Primrose, one classroom now becomes 2. So that's 6 less physical spaces that we would need at Primrose to separate kids. That's one more reason how we can actually get the kids separated across the schools, because we don't need those 6 classrooms because they're at home being instructed. So again, proud of the community. Again, as you said before, we had some pretty amazing people on those committees, and they really brought their talents to these different subgroups and things. Even one of the subcommittees determined and made a good suggestion, and we acted on this week as a board, that the first 3 days of school are going to be half days, just to see, my words, like, okay, what just happened this morning? And then let's figure out the afternoon so we can adjust for the day 2, and then adjust for, it's kind of our easing into the system. So for our faculty, our staff, our parents, and our kids. So I thought that was a great piece that came out of that subcommittee. And it was the parents who happen to be involved in education in other areas. So like, this would be really helpful for our children as well as our faculty and stuff. So good stuff. It's good. So
Excellent.
well, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with the team. And again, always here. And again, I appreciate the highway piece, and I also appreciate a little bit of the quiet on the email too. So
Yeah, that was an unfortunate benefit. Let's put it that way.
yeah. It looks great. So thank you for all your hard work.
A comment. I think you've done an extremely great job under very, very difficult circumstances. So it doesn't go unnoticed in the community. Let me just ask at this time, if there's any, Paul, do you have anybody from the community, or Patty? Any comments or questions for Dr. Blanche?
No, I have nobody on my side. Sorry, Patty.
I haven't gotten any. That's okay, Paul. Nothing.
There you go, Ray. Woo!
Yeah, so
Did you see the vein cut? I would really, especially as we go through this, I would welcome them to come back and just check in again. If it's September or whatever it is, and you get, hey, let's just check in again. That would be great, because there's such a strong, hopefully, alliance with our community and our town and the schools. And this is again, a temporary solution. We will come out of this. We won't be the same by any means. I think we'll be frankly better in a lot of ways. But how do we make sure we go ahead and work forward with this? And I have to tell you, our children this summer who've been part of the ESWay program, they've set a great tone. They've worn their mask without issue. They've done a great job, and they go outside and you hear them laugh, and it's good. It's different, but it's good. And I'm really proud of the faculty and our support staff who've done that. So it's been a great model and example for us to say, okay, we can do this. Let's be smart about it, and we can do this and stuff. So, but I welcome any time to come on back and any questions that the group has. So
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray, and you're welcome anytime you want to come on and give us an update.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on to our next item on the agenda is Highview Court proposed project on Route 100 and Highview Terrace. And tonight with us to present is Mr. Rick Donardo. So Rick, take it away.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Rick.
I thank you for the opportunity, to present our project. Again, the subject property, if you don't know, is at the intersection of Highview Court and 100, diagonal from Lawton Adams, next to Frog Deli. It's adjacent basically to the industrial area of Somers. It's sad to say the eyesore that's been there for a long time. It's a 2-acre residential lot. Over the years, we've driven by it a lot, and we're always like, somebody's got to do something with this. Somebody's got to do something. Well, the opportunity came up, and we would like to do something. We would like to really improve that area, the gateway to Somers. And what we'd like to do is originally we proposed a 3-building mixed-use residential and office development, a little like Planned Hamlet. We informally discussed it with some of the members at the town and the board. And the suggestion was to the first stop would be to discuss it with the neighbors and socialize it around the neighborhood that's adjacent, which is the Highview Terrace, Anarock, and the houses immediately. So what we did over a series of 3 meetings is we hand-delivered invitations to all the neighbors that were there. And we held our first meeting on the site. We had almost 18 of the residents represented. We explained what we were thinking of doing. We provided them with plenty of documentation and presentations. And they clearly made it known to us their feelings, which I don't believe doesn't come as a surprise. But, everything that they were concerned about was, legitimate, going from mass and scale to water, to traffic, basically the common issues for a development. We took all that over a series of a few more meetings and met with the neighbors. And I got to tell you, they were very receptive to us reaching out to them and considering their opinions and what they thought before we proceeded to the town on anything. And we came to somewhat of a agreement that everybody was comfortable with. And basically, instead of putting up 2 buildings, we would reduce it and instead of putting up 3 buildings, we would put up 2 buildings, and we would eliminate all the commercial space and go strictly with residential. So to summarize again, basically the original project was a total of 3 buildings with a total of 24 units plus 10,000 square feet of office. We reduced it down to 2 buildings with no office space and still 24 units though. What this does is it overall reduced our proposal by 1/3, as well as reducing the commercial space by 100%. Again, they wasn't an endorsement, but they felt comfortable with us presenting it to the town. And how we approached it, and I'd like to approach the same with the town, I know how important the engineering and all these concerns are, but what we're looking for is a starting point. And we'd like to present to the town and say, if we're able to address all the important issues of traffic and water quality and engineering and everything else that's important and relevant to a development, do you envision this as a project that would improve the area there, would improve the gateway to Somers, would soften the look from the industrial area to the historic area, and just make it a lot more pleasant all around for that area down there? That's the direction that I'd like to, the town to approach. This point is to give us a direction, assuming that we can satisfactorily address all the other issues. Is this something you envision, as a positive change for that downtown, for that area?
Okay, so Rick, thank you for coming on, and we're going to continue this dialogue. But I think for the board and the public's knowledge, this is currently an R80 zone, right, which is 2-acre single-family home site.
Absolutely.
So, this is why, you would be involving the town board, because we would have to deal with some type of zoning change. But as we had spoken, in the past, and I think I concurred with you that, that site, people drive by it, it looks like an abandoned piece of property, which, didn't get any improvements. And to see what you would bring to it, I think I did encourage you to, that it would be a tough row to hoe, because not only if the town just held a public hearing, then the public comes out and would criticize. The fact that you took that extra step and brought this to the community, actually before doing this in front of the town board, I think speaks volumes, for you. So, I, for one, once again, I've known about this project for quite some time. I appreciate the fact that, and hopefully you did too, that when we first took a look at it, it seemed like you used every square inch of that property, to put something on it. And the feedback we got back to you was it was too massive for that site. But what you're presenting tonight, downscale, all residential, that is still not permitted in that zone, but I think that's something that's more palatable for the town board to take a look. So with that said, I'll let other town board members comment.
Rick, I was interested, I think I know the answer, but when you went to the people who live in that area and they said, well, you said you heard them loud and clear, and you took out all the commercial space. Was that what they were asking for? We don't want the commercial space, or we just want it smaller? What did you learn from those discussions with those people?
Well, it was split. Everybody had different concerns, and we tried to group the concerns together. And we tried to address all the concerns, whether it was mass, it was the reduction of traffic by eliminating the commercial space. It was a height. The adjacent house was concerned that the sun wasn't going to. So again, what we did is we categorized all their concerns, and we tried to figure out the best way to address all of them at best. And the best way was to reduce the overall project by eliminating one building. And again, what that is, eliminating the commercial space, so reduce the traffic coming in and out. Okay? It reduced the floor area ratio. It reduced the site coverage. It reduced the impervious surface. So again, and currently our plan shows the buildings by the road. So it also creates a buffer to the residential area in the back. So we were trying to move as far away from the residential area as possible. And again, when our last meeting, I am not saying at all that they're 100% endorsing it, but they gave us their okay to come and present it to the town. And if we satisfactorily address all the other issues, and this is the same way I'm going to the town, is we're just looking for a starting point. We don't want to address all the engineering issues and traffic issues, and all of a sudden they say, well, that's not what I envisioned, But, we really feel that this would be an asset to that corner, because it would definitely visually improve the area, and the values of the homes in the back. Because right now, look, it is industrial, and it's a very important part of Somers. That industrial area has been there for a long time, and it's something that we do need. Every area needs an industrial. But if we can produce something that'll enable us to transition a little better, make it more welcoming. You know, when you come up 100 and the first thing you see in Somers is the garbage dump and a construction site and whatever, it presents an image. But if we can sort of soften that, I think it's very important. You know, it'll bring a lot of value to that area.
Well, I think the question that you asked of yourselves and the town board is, does it make it a better town? And I'm sure you followed our discussions with the proposed school on the IBM site. And the question or the statement that comes often is, you know, you want this school to be successful, but in what ways will the school make the town more successful? Will it make it a better town? And that's a question we keep coming back to with them. I'm not saying they're not answering it, but that's a persistent question, because that is our job. So as you ask that question of us, I'm asking that question, how do you see it tied in? So you say it makes a better presentation, probably so.
I didn't even.
And is it going to tie in with what's to the north of that, or is it going to be a separate little island there?
No, this is gonna transition so that when you come up Route 100 and you're going through this industrial area, again, that's very important and that we need. Well, all of a sudden now we're gonna step down, we're gonna go into a little mixed-use hamlet plan development concept, where it's gonna be multifamily housing. And then eventually we transition, you know, we have Somers Crossings, and then we're into the historic district. So it's a nice step down transition. But, you know, really the important part about this whole project, it satisfies a need for the town. Currently, there is not enough 1 and 2 bedroom housing in the town. As you know, we have a solid track record in the historic district. You know, we have apartments, we have commercial space. Right now, our 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, over 70% are rented to retirees from Somers or people that work in Somers. And what we do is we allow them the opportunity to live in a premium style apartment for below market value, because they're paying anywhere from $200 to $300 a month less for a high-end finishes, full appliances, central air, and that's why we have a waiting list to get inside them. And, you know, we were able to do that through the guidance, you know, and the help of the town when we did the other projects. And we want to carry that through. Yeah, right now, if you look, it's difficult to rent in Heritage. There's nothing available right now. And there's very little availability for apartments for either young people, retirees that are selling their home, or somebody that's in transition. You know, there's a lot of market. There's a big market out there.
I don't know how far it is from the center of town, but I'm just thinking, if a person can live there and then walk, all the studies say people are looking for that, especially younger people. If they can't get to a train, they want to walk to a village. That's something I would suggest, but, you know, I always suggest that on every project.
Well, you know, I'm proud to say that we were the stimulus for the sidewalks in downtown Somers. We were the ones that started the sidewalks, and today, you look around, we have a beautiful downtown. Sidewalks connect to the supermarket, to the bank, to the town hall, to the medical facilities. You know what I'm saying? And especially now that in the current pandemic situation, the number of people using the sidewalk is amazing. There's people out there exercising. It just really, the sidewalks really served a useful purpose. I'll admit, I was one of the first ones that was skeptical in the beginning when we did it. But now you look around, when I look outside my window, it's great to see people using the sidewalk, you know, to connect to downtown, even the school, you know?
Yeah. If you can do it with this project, I think it would be a plus.
So Rick, you mentioned that this is a start. Is a thought to put up the 3rd building or complete a 3rd building at some point in time, if in fact it's...
Well, right now our only objective is to put up the 2 buildings. Hey, it'd be great if down the road you guys at the town said to me, "Oh, that was wonderful, you know, maybe put up a 3rd building." But, you know, that's right now that's not on our agenda, you know.
The only thing I have to just step in, Mr. DiNardo, this is Roland Baroni, is the town board has to be very careful in not prejudging an application.
Right.
So I know you're looking for guidance, but the board hasn't seen any of the environmental review, nor has it heard directly from the public. So it's very difficult for the town board to give you an endorsement of this project that once they have all the facts, they may change their minds. And I hope you appreciate that.
I appreciate that, and with all due respect, maybe I didn't express myself. I was by no means looking for an endorsement because I understand, the sensitivity of it. I was looking for some guidance to say perhaps that, something, if you're looking to pursue a project like this, the best way to approach it is whether start with the town board at a work session and then move on, honestly, if the town board says, look, we don't foresee this as part of the vision of our master plan. I mean, I by no means am I looking a rubber stamp, to stamp it. I just
Okay.
like some guidance. I'm going to tell the board the same thing we told all the neighbors. We're here not as outsiders. We're the neighbors. We're the people inside. We're looking to move ahead with a project like this with the support of the town. We're not looking to fight anybody, and we told the neighbors, look, without the neighbors, we couldn't present it to you. And I'm going to tell the town, without the town, giving us guidance and direction, we can't move forward, and we wouldn't move forward with it.
Okay.
And again, this is an opportunity. Other things, if I could just quickly highlight, Dr. Blanche was saying, well, we're short $1 million. A project like this, over the span of a child that goes to school, will easily generate over $1 million in tax revenue for the town. Easy. So again, you have to look at the asset, the opportunity. Let's keep young people in town. How do you keep the young people in town from moving out? You provide them with affordable housing, with amenities, all close to the train station, close to town, as you just said. So there's all these little things that cumulatively give this project some merit for consideration.
Okay. So our town planner, Saret Dim, is on the call. Saret, if I could just call upon you to, what would be Rick's next steps as far as pursuing this with the town?
As you know, I sent out a memo this afternoon because I was asked to take a look at what zoning might have to be amended in order to even vaguely accomplish something like this. And it was not only just for this project, but there are some adjacent properties where there have also been some reaching out to the town board, asking for certain things, and some things that the town board has on its own mind related to adjacent properties. And when I write these memos and when I do this kind of research, you should know that I also am not taking any position whatsoever on this. I'm just being asked from a technical point of view, what, if anything, might accommodate something like this. And the answer is that, needless to say, there is a substantial rezoning that would have to take place. This is on an R80, as Rick said, and the properties to the north are R80, and the properties to the south are the OLI. And if you look at this as just one parcel, before Rick had come in, and we had a meeting several months ago when he had a commercial property, commercial part of this, and we were looking at this in one way as to how to accommodate it. Now that it is being proposed as all residential, we have to look at it in another way. And the town does have an MFR district, the multifamily residential, that it has created and mapped in several locations. It's an overlay district. It has the MFR Baldwin Place, it has the MFR Hamlet Zone, and the MFR Downtown Hamlet Zone. So it has, in the past, accommodated certain types of multifamily uses. Each one of those However, were not necessarily apartments. Those were for townhouse type of units. The apartments were really in two locations along Route 6. Obviously, the Avalon project as part of the planned hamlet, and the Ken Kearney project in Crossroads across the street. And of course, the Muse, part of the planned hamlet. So the planned hamlet was a different district, and the way Ken Kearney's project was handled was a little different. So yeah, I mean, zoning can often be accommodated to allow a use that may be deemed as something that is desirable, but the desirability of that land use is something that needs to be considered outside of the zoning itself. So as in these other cases, the land use was considered desirable, and therefore the zoning could be created to accommodate that use. So the board really needs to consider the use itself, the density of the use, the height of the use. Again, this would be to my knowledge, the only multifamily in the town that is 3 stories, and all the others are 2 stories. So, you know, this is something from a land use point of view. It can be accommodated by zoning, but whether or not it is the land use that the town envisions in this particular location, and whether or not by creating a zone to accommodate it, this would be the only site, whether or not it would perhaps be used to accommodate some adjacent uses, and whether or not there are other sites along the corridor that might then themselves feel that they might have some rights to ask for this type of rezoning. So these are the things that I think the town needs to think about.
Okay, and I've just asked, I will ask you, Saret, that was a very comprehensive memo you wrote today on zoning, the potential for rezoning. And I would just say, let's share that with the town board for some background in what we feel we want to see happen on Route 100. You know, Mr. Donato, Rick makes a good case where it's adding aesthetics to the town, no question. But, you know, in the larger picture, you know, does it fit in with the town board's view of, you said, a 3-story building, the first 3-story building in the town? You know, is that something we want to promote? You know, does something come in within the next project is a 4-story? So all these things, I think that take a look at Saret's email. It talks about a number of different things that we should consider, but I don't think that, well, and I'm not making a judgment either, but what I've heard tonight regarding having seen what Rick originally proposed and where he is now, you know, dropped the retail, came in with the residential, you know, to my mind's eye, not prejudging once again, that is more palatable. Is it a benefit for the town? And would it fit into, as Saret mentioned, other things that are happening on that corridor? So we not only have to look at what Rick's proposing, but some of the other things that are in the works. So any further comments from board members?
No, I appreciate it, Rick. I was one of the ones who met with you early on. I appreciate you going and approaching the neighbors and sort of doing what we suggested. And as the supervisor said, this is a much more palatable application, and I'd be interested to see, as it moves forward, what some of the feedback is.
Do you own the property now,
Can I
Rick?
just mention one
I'm
thing?
sorry.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. If I could just mention a point of clarification, a couple of times was referred to that it would be the only 3-story building in Somers. As of right now, obviously besides the town hall, that's 3 stories, Citibank is 3-story. And if you go from the corridor of Route 116, where Dr. Renani's building is, all the way down to this parcel, there currently are 28 build parcels. I'm sorry, 27 parcels, and 18 of them are zoned 2.5-story or 3-story. This, according to the building inspector, is actually a 2.5-story because of the height.
Mhm.
It's 3 floors, but it's a 2.5-story building.
Now, is that half story, is that going
Yeah,
to be?
people.
It's categorized for construction as 2.5 stories because it's 10 feet to the midpoint of the top floor, which makes it a 2.5 story. And so basically what I'm saying is, if you go the whole corridor of Route 100, even through the historic district, 67% of the buildings are 2.5 story or 3 stories. So it's in keeping with what's current along that corridor.
Yeah. Okay, understood. So, Roland, I'll ask you. In my mind, if Mr. DiNardo wanted to begins with a formal application, and then we get into the engineering and the seeker and.
Yeah, the first step would be delivery to you of a petition with the proposed zoning included with it, and a long form EAF, and whatever other requirements are in the code, but I think those two are essential. And he would deliver that to the town board, and then you would determine whether or not you wish to be lead agency for the purposes of seeker. You would declare your intent, presumably, and then you would make referrals out to both the county planning board and to your own planning board, and you would seek their recommendations back to you.
Okay, and then if it moved to actually rezoning or doing something with zoning, we have to have public hearing.
Oh, definitely, you'd have to have a public hearing, and you'd also have to look at your comprehensive plan. And if you found that the plan had to be amended to accommodate this type of use, then you would also have to double up and have 2 public hearings.
As we have for the school with IBM.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Okay, so if there's no further comment, Rick, I want to thank you for your time this evening. You were well prepared. I understand now that we have other 2.5-story buildings running down 100. And I want to commend you on the fact that you take that extra step and go out and met with the neighbors, because these are the same people, once again, that would come into a public hearing to either endorse or fight against, this type of proposal. So I want to thank you for, doing your homework as far as that goes. So if there's no further comment from any board members, we'll move on to the next agenda item. And Rick, if you have any other questions, obviously you can contact us anytime.
Well, again, I just want to really thank everybody for the opportunity and your time, for hearing us out. I appreciate it, and I hope you have all a good night.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, number 4 on our agenda is the town board special meeting we've scheduled for August 20th at Reese Park for continuation of the Somers Sewer District number 2. It's a continuation of our public hearing. As I said in the past, we were on track with a couple of public hearings. The world changed. We took a hiatus from this. But as as life goes on, we're learning that there's some exciting news regarding some funding opportunities that we want to share with the residents of Lake Lincolndale and Shenorock. And it's been this board's feeling that something of this import should not be held via Zoom. So that is why we chose Reese Park as an outdoor venue. We can be socially distant there. We can have the town board on microphone and videotaped. We can have a mobile mic for those who want to address us. We would have a presentation by Woodward and Curran on the current updates. And for moving this project along. I think it's important. We've garnered support for this at the county level, at the Department of Environmental Facilities, who runs the Peekskill Sewer Plant. They made some accommodations for us, and we're in the process. Steve Robbins and Woodward and Curran are working to put together a very simplistic, fact-filled sheet that will be handed out to every participant at the public hearing, and certainly it'll be available for everyone to take a look at. So if there's any comments or issues regarding having that meeting.
The only issue I would say, Rick, and I think we discussed this at one point, because we've already seen some people say something, is we realize it's August. We're trying to get out in front of people. The intention is to keep it into September, where we can do another public hearing. We're not trying to do it in August and then close it and sneak anything by. We're just trying to get out to the people in August, and then we'll do it again in September, because we don't know when we're going to be back in a room able to go face to face. And we can't keep pushing it back, so we're out there in a snowstorm in Reese Park. So we're trying to do it in August and September in order to let everybody come. So we're not trying to slip because people are on vacation, although where they're going I have no idea. So it's not going to be a one and done.
Right, and thanks for pointing that out, Tom. Once again, there is some exciting news to pass along to residents. As you well know, we're trying to make this as most economically feasible project for the residents as we possibly can. So we're at the point where we're ready to unveil those things at this hearing. Roland, just timing wise, I've been in contact with our two legislators, Legislator Koval and Vedat Gashi, who really been our champions at the county level. And this project is in subcommittee there. But once again, they can't take any action until we have our district formed and our referendum voted on. But recently the state legislature did something about elongating the period between when you conclude your public hearing and when you can have a referendum?
I don't know that that's been adopted yet, but there is a bill that is passing its way through the Assembly into the Senate, which would lengthen the time to, instead of being between 60 and 75 days to have the referendum, it would now be 90 to 105 days. However, now that I've actually seen the proposed bill, the second paragraph does not include petitions brought under Article 12 of town law. And you are proceeding under Article 12A, not Article 12. So as far as I can see, we will still be able to have our referendum in the window of 60 to 75 days, provided it's done during calendar year 2020. that after 2020, beginning January 1, 2021, the law will apply to those petitions brought under Article 12A.
Thank you for that clarification. That's encouraging. Because
Also, if I can ask, I think Patty knows this answer, or maybe Roland does. Some people have asked, can you combine it with the election on November 3rd? And I don't think that's permissible, right?
Yeah,
We did look into that. Patty did with the Board of Elections, and that is not permissible.
Right.
Right, okay. So once again, this is something that, this is no news, should not be any news to anyone in the community. We've been working at this for going on 2.5 years. And I have to say, it's what we've seen is a much improved product. And without, getting into details, I don't want to really get into much of a presentation. But on August 20th, once again, we're going to have that information available in a very straightforward presentation. Once again, Steve Robbins of Woodward and Curran will be on hand. We'll take all questions, try to answer everything. But we want to keep on a timeline, as the town attorney pointed out. We'd like to get this referendum voted on, either up or down. I've gotten numerous emails from individuals wondering what has happened to the project, and believe me, it hasn't fallen off our agenda. It's been worked on, tweaked, and we're ready to move forward with it. So hopefully we'll have a weather permitting. The venue will be the stage at Reese Park, and then we'll have the pavilion available for people to go under in case of poor weather. The Parks Department will draw circles out in the grass areas, indicating 6-foot distance. Attendees at the public hearing will be asked to wear masks as they come in to the park. We'll have a police presence, and we want to just keep it as orderly as possible for an outdoor venue. This is the first time we're attempting something like this. Normally, we might go to the high school or the middle school gym where we could social distance, but they're doing a lot of work at the school at this point. I would suspect that maybe by September, we'll approach Dr. Blanche and maybe get ourselves into an auditorium to have the final public hearing.
Rick,
So-
have we scheduled a time for that? It's 8:10 right now. I'm across the street from the park, and it's just about dark. Are we going to have the lights on there, or are we going to start early, or are we going to end at 8 o'clock?
Well, that's up for discussion. You want to start it earlier than 7 o'clock? We could start at 6 for that matter. We would just have to get, just trying to see on the agenda what if the time is listed. Yeah, on the agenda, it would have to be reposted. I did send out a code red this week on Monday, just to the Lincolndale, Shedrock areas, saying that there's a public hearing going to be scheduled on the Somer Sewer District number 2 on August 20th at 7 p.m. But yeah, I mean, there are lights there. If we want to stick to 7 p.m., I think we could probably do that. So if you want to stick with 7, we can stick with 7. If not, I'll just have to renotice the time. What does the board feel?
I'm fine with 7.
I'm fine with 7 also. I just think that we just be prepared to, deal with a little bit of carryover when we have to. 7
Okay.
o'clock, I think people will be most likely to be there.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, we
6
could
o'clock is
see-
a little closer to people coming home from work.
Yeah, 6 would be too early.
Right.
Okay, so let's leave it at 7. And
we're
with
gonna-
the
We'll
ending,
be, we'll be there 15 minutes before or whatever for setup and all that type of stuff as well.
so with the understanding that we're going to have yet another public hearing in September. So, okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 5. We have a request from the Carney Group to name a private road in their Hidden Meadows development. And as we always do, I'm going to make a motion to refer it out to our police department, highway department, P&E, the historian, and the fire department for their review and comment.
Rick, have the names been suggested at this point?
Yeah, Musco River Road, I think.
Yeah,
Right,
That's what he said. Yeah.
right. And was there any additional support for, once again, Lynn Adams Way?
well, you can suggest that. We can refer that out to the referral people as well. If you wanted to make that a formal, send us an email on it and we'll include that in the referral.
I did. Do it again. Thanks.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to refer the name of the private road for Hidden Meadows.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right.
So move. All right, the next item on the agenda, number 6, telecommunications task force. Interestingly enough, this was to be discussed at our August 3rd board meeting, before we lost telecommunications in our town. Councilman Sirico and Faulkner have graciously agreed to pull together a telecommunications task force. This is going to be run much like the utility task force. And basically it's a needed, it's very timely now, but even before this, the communications between cable companies and internet companies and our residents has been abysmal. This past week has only magnified why we need a task force like this. And I know, Tony's been, and Bill have been on calls with Altice and Optimum. They have 9 o'clock calls in the morning where they're beginning to tell us about what they're doing. There still has basically, the other day did we get a restoration time. They're saying everybody will be restored by Friday evening. Well, that didn't help people that are trying to run their businesses out of their homes from August 4th to August, 14th. That's unacceptable in this day and age. So this task force, we're going to invite, obviously, the Optimum, we're going to invite Comcast, we'll invite Verizon, and we'll see if we can get representatives like we did on the utility task force. And we've been getting some emails since we've talked about this, about some residents that want to be part of the task force. And Tony, I've referred them, to you. Some were saying they have a telecommunications background, which is great. But people, want to have a voice on this. And even if you don't formally get asked to participate in the task force, I just want the public to know these are open meetings. So when we do have a meeting for this, if the first one is before September and we do a Zoom, once again, everybody's can participate. You can leave a comment. you can talk about it. So with that said, Tony, you have anything, or Bill, anything more you want to add to that?
Just say that
Plenty.
I feel like I aged a week. I aged myself this week. You know, it's modeled after the NYSEG task force. I think that worked out very well, and it's continuing. It's a full court press, even with NYSEG today. These carriers essentially depend on NYSEG for power, so there's a nexus there in terms of them getting their work done and their reliance on other facility-based type carriers. You know, on the calls, I mean, we're back to NYSEG 4 years ago. I mean, essentially, they're ill-prepared. There's a lot of weaknesses in what they're attempting to do operationally, customer service-wise, repair restoration-wise. And that's not to say that this was a real significant outage. I mean, there was about 1 million people out in each one of the states when the storm came up, you know, in the interior of sort of the Northeast. I mean, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York, all each having about 1 million outages, placed a lot of demand on, you know, getting people in place here. But preparedness for Altice has not been, you know, great. You know, this is just going to be, you know, a full court press. You know, we pushed them on credits, and I think they're going to be credits, yet it's still undefined. You know, I hesitate to define exactly what that's going to look like, but that's going to be a proactive credit process with them. They're going to be follow-up meetings with us as we go forward. We immediately created an escalation sort of corridor within Altice, where the supervisor's office and Kim are taking calls from local residents that have had terrible experiences, and we're putting them on the list, and they've been, you know, dealing with them. But we won't know really until we get to postmortem in terms of how this thing all gets resolved. The call times are too long. You know, they go from, you know, minutes to hours to non-responsive. There's not estimates on time to restore. So there are deficiencies in their network, and, you know, we're going to work on all of that. So, well, look, it's timely that this has all happened while we're trying to set up the task force. So, you know, we're looking for volunteers, and, you know, we'll take this thing forward. Bill, if you want to say anything.
Rick, I'd like to take the lead on this. As you know, I've been harping on this issue for years, and now it's all hit the fan. So we've got volunteers, we've got intellectual property within town who's looking to help out. Let's embrace them. Let's bring them on board, and let's do exactly what you did with NYSEG and hold their feet to the fire. And I don't just mean Altice. I mean Comcast and Fios as well. If they want the privilege of doing business in our town, and oh, by the way, like I always thought, it's not just our town, it's the entire county of Westchester and the surrounding counties. So I would very much welcome the opportunity to take the lead on this.
Okay, well, you've been tasked, you and Tony, with pulling together this task force, and I will add a couple of things. Out of all the customers in we happen to be in the Hudson Valley service area. They had 27,000 people without service, was knocked out. That was 9% of their customers there. They had 40% at the height of the storm. Like I said, we're down to about a dozen people that are still do not have their internet or cable services. And in my mind, that's a dozen too many, this many days after an outage. And Tony, you mentioned credit. I want to say that that is an issue that I have, that Supervisor Lucas has, that some of the state legislators have. So what Altice is saying, that they will give you a credit for the service that you did not have while your power was restored. So in other words, your power came back on, but you still didn't have cable, if that was over the last 3 days, you get 3 days worth of credit. That is unacceptable. As far as I'm concerned, August 4th, you lost electricity and you lost your cable service. That's when the credit should start. Altice and NYSEG have a relationship. They get power from there. If they lose their source of power, it's on them. It shouldn't be pushed back onto the resident. The resident didn't have anything to do with any of that. They paid their electrical bill and they paid for their cable bill. So we're making that point with Altice Optimum, and at this point in time, they're steadfast with, if you had power and you didn't have cable, we'll give you a credit. But that doesn't change the fact that people have been out of cable for over 10 days now. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Sorry, no, that's not a soapbox. Those are really good points, and it's nonsense to get an answer like that from such a big company with such vital infrastructure that we're dependent upon. In other words, what if I do have power? It just happens to be generator power. Well, nice to drop the ball. That's why I got a generator. Now I got a generator. Now I got power. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Altice, give me a credit because you're down and I'm up.
Right.
Just one point.
Right. And
Let me also, I'm sorry.
I think what they did say on the call is they will review those type of cases and possibly give you a credit.
Let me just say.
All right, and I'll review whether or not I pay them at the end of the month.
There you go. Yeah, Rich.
Tom, when I started with the energy task force, one of the points we were making is that NYSEG was terrible in terms of their communications with their customers. As we know, restoration times are restoration guesses, but they have started an app. They've been more proactive in sending out text messages. And I think, during the storm, our highway superintendent and fire and others say, at least they've been responsive when we've made calls. I cannot believe that there's a company with worse communication than the cable companies. I was on hold with them for 24 minutes and no one, I didn't even get a recording, nothing. I just want to see how long would it be. I had to get off the phone finally after 24 minutes. They give you nothing. And then they want your loyalty. I just find them to be despicable in their disrespect for customers. And while, in my opinion, this is an unregulated monopoly, I think if we put the power of public opinion on it and put a spotlight on it, as we said last month, let's put a megaphone to the concerns of the people we represent. And even though we may not legally have the power to do anything, I think that they should hear from people, because I don't know how they can't hear, but I guess it's because they just never answer the phone. So if you don't answer the phone, you can't hear from your people.
So, Rich, just say that just a little bit differently. There are regulatory gaps there, but there is regulatory oversight in certain areas. So we've been in contact with the PUC. They've been on the calls. We're going to bring them in, as well. However, you need a regulatory bludgeon, a cudgel, to basically bring these guys to the table. And I think that's having a big effect on this, because the regulators are present. They're going to be hearings up in Albany, and although all that's going to happen, and we'll probably testify, and that's going to create all the pressure. We're going to bring we're going to bring these people down locally here, and just get our situation on the table and get a better understanding of what's going on there and set expectations.
Right.
To your point, with NYSEG, I mean, they assigned 10 trucks this year. They were well prepared. They assigned 10 trucks to our highway supervisor this year. When they went through the restoration and restore period, the safety period, I mean, everything went pretty smoothly. But we need to do something similar with these guys. But
when I say they're not regulated, though you're right in terms of how they put in the polls and where it is. But in terms of price, they're not regulated, nor in terms of what they offer. So in Congress, there have been bills for years about having a la carte. So most of us, we use 5 channels, we get 700 and we pay for those. That's what I mean by it's not regulated. We
Right.
don't really have the power there, and they tell us when they're going to increase their prices. But we don't
Well,
have a power over that.
Pricing's another matter. The
Yeah.
cable portion of the business is regulated, the PUC, but the value-added portion is not. Federally, they regulate all the
FCC.
Yeah, the FCC it does the internet portion and also has oversight over Verizon. And, we need to extend this to bring, those companies to the table as well, because there were degradation in cell phone services as we were going through this. And so command and control is important here. And so it's a big initiative, but
No,
we're going to push forward.
I think
Well,
it's,
as Tom pointed out, internet is now really a necessity. TV may be a luxury. We'd all be better off if we didn't watch TV, probably. But as Tom said, it's such a need for people working, whether it's during this when people in quarantine or
No
anybody
question.
else now. That's becoming a public utility, in my opinion.
no, it has, and it should be treated as such. So I'm just gonna, this is a quote from a representative from the Public Service Commission on one of the calls. He said to Alderman Altice, this is an epic failure. So they are honed in, tuned in, and as Tony mentioned, there will be follow-up with the Public Service Commission. And hopefully our task force is going to be on the apex of this drive. There's going to be things happening in Albany, but look, we work for the town of Somers. If we can get their attention to improve services in our town, that's what we're interested in. So once again, I want to thank Tony and Bill for agreeing to, this is no small task, but obviously you'll have the support of the town board.
All you guys are welcome.
Well, one at a time they are. We can't have more than 2 in a meeting, right,
No, I
Roland?
understand.
Right.
All right, let's move along to number 7. So our building inspector has brought to our attention that we have some local laws that are no longer, they're overridden by state laws. So he's suggesting that we rescind a number of these, but to accomplish that, we need to schedule a public hearing for September 10th. So I'm going to make a motion to set a public hearing for to rescind local laws regarding Bureau of Fire Prevention and our local laws.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so
And by the way, Rick, I think this is great. Actually, because, the more laws that get off the books that are at the prime example of this, it's completely defunct. That's great. It unclutters the wheels of government. That's a good thing.
Yep. Okay. Number 8, authorize the supervisor to execute the CAI Technologies contract for the annual GIS Internet Service Maintenance and Agreement for the period October 1, 2020 through September 2021 with the town of Somers in the amount of $2,400, subject to automatic renewals per email from Teresa Stegner, assessor, dated July 23rd. So this GIS tool is important to our assessor, and I'll make a motion to authorize supervisor to execute that.
Second.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Number 10, authorize the re-solicitation of a request for proposals for companies that can provide a contract to furnish and deliver oil.
Sorry, did we skip 9 or was 9 changed? Sorry, Rick, maybe I'm reading off the wrong sheet.
Right, I did skip 9.
Oh,
Let me go back.
Mr. Garrity is disrespected.
Yeah.
Authorize the deputy supervisor to execute the community choice aggregation MOA with Sustainable Westchester, Inc. and the ESA in due course, pending further review by the town's attorney. And I think, yeah, Roland, you reviewed all those.
I have.
Okay. So this was, I'm going to make a motion to authorize the deputy supervisor to execute the MOA
Second.
and ESA. Okay,
Second
all in
again.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so move. Thank you for keeping me on track. 10, authorize the re-solicitation. What happened with this, we put this out to bid and we didn't get any proposals. So some vendors did not get the notice. So we're going to send it out to those individuals with the hopes of getting our bids back. So I'm looking for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so move. Okay. Under personnel, we do have vacancies on our volunteer boards. Volunteers, please take note. You can always check our website for vacancies as well. I want to authorize the reappointment of Ms. Ellen Divney to the Somers Affordable Housing Board to a 2-year term ending July 11th, 2020, and authorize the reappointment of Richard Albach to the Somers Affordable Housing Board to a 2-year term ending July 11th, 2022. I think I need a motion on that. I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, we have one consensus agenda item.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Tri-County Nutrition, yeah. Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt the consensus agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, just in wrapping up our calendar. So August 20th, we will reconvene our public hearing on the Somer Sewer District Number 2 at Reese Park at 7 p.m. And just in closing, I do want to make a comment about our town and its resiliency and the behavior of our residents during not only the COVID crisis, but during the power outage and cable outage of this past week. And I know it's been mentioned before, but thanks has to go out to our police department, who keeps law and order in this town during very upsetting times. They were very much involved in dry ice and water distribution and never said no to anything they were asked of. Our fire department, we activated our emergency operations center, and the reports we were getting from the chief, they went out on no less than 15 carbon monoxide calls with people misusing their generators. Every generator should be 20 feet from a home. Most generators are sold with less than 20 feet of cord. So you have to purchase extra cord to get it out there. But, you know, fortunately, we didn't have any fatalities. They responded to a house fire over in Purdy's and saved the house from burning to the ground. That was due to the power coming back on and the electrical panel going up. Our EMS crew never stopped. You know, they've been going up and down our roads, you know, bringing people medical care and taking them to medical care. And highway department, what can you say? What haven't we said about the highway department? Nick, on day 2, I think, was telling me there were about 140 trees that came down in the town of Somers. Some of them right closing off roads, some of them hanging in wires, some of them taking down wires. And as previously mentioned, we had NYSEG crews assigned to our highway department. These were the make safe crews. So the way this happens is you have to make safe first, and then NYSEG can begin restoration. So for the first 2 days, this was all make safe. And I asked Nick, I said, okay, so when are you getting some sleep? I mean, between the fire chief, the police chief, and Nick, there wasn't a lot of sleeping being done those first couple of days. So my thanks goes out to them. Our building department, they're up to their necks in permits and with COVID and the restaurants having to be inspected as far as outdoor dining goes. On top of that, they went out and assessed damage. They were out at the house fire as well. So they've really stepped up big time in the building department. Parks and Recreation, they're there every time there's a townwide disaster. Steve Ralston is part of the EOC response. He and his crew went up and got the dry ice and water at least 3 times. And, they've been there to help out. And once again, no one on the parks payroll said no to anything. And then finally, our senior nutrition program. I don't know how Barbara Tabor keeps doing this, but even throughout this outage and the COVID outbreak, she has been delivering meals. She's probably doubled the amount of home meals that they deliver. So once again, my thanks goes out to the nutrition program and all their staff. And then finally, I would be remiss if I did not single out Kim DeLucia and Tammy Sava of my staff, who I have to tell you, hundreds of calls they field and are very courteous, responsive, and respectful to people that call. And also to every department head who has worked diligently to keep their offices in line, sanitized. Thanks to Tom Garrity and Kim again for the reentry task force. Tom is going above and beyond, also going out and arranging for, we were paying $1,700 every other week to fog and sanitize our buildings. Tom was able to not only locate a source for a backpack fogger, 2 of them that are being used and will be used to do this fogging ourselves at a savings of, $1,700 every other week. So my thanks to you, Tom, as well. And with that, I want to also thank the town board for your actions. You've all been present and accounted for as far as getting town business done. And I thank you for that. So we do not have announcements tonight. There's not a heck of a lot happening in our town due to social distancing. So with that, I'll just kick it over to the board members for any comments, concerns, issues before we close the meeting.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you said, not everybody's doing social distancing, so we couldn't really celebrate this. But of course, today is the 75th anniversary of VJ Day, the official ending of World War II. Go America. And if you love your freedom, thank you, Bet.
Here, here. Okay.
So it's been an eventful week, and just appreciates all the residents' patience through all this storm. I mean, it's what, day 10 now, right? And
Yeah.
we still haven't closed the book on it yet, but
Yeah,
keep going.
here. Okay, so with that, I will formally close the town board meeting of August 13th. Good night, Somers.
Wait, motion to close.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay,
All
now-
right. We'll see you on the 20th.